Hey everyone, and welcome to Focus Your Ads. In this episode, we're going to be talking about negative keywords and where we can apply negative keywords, how we can apply them, and what are the different match types that we can use to make this work. So let's go into what are negative keywords. So negative keywords are a way that we can control the searches that are coming in. Google's going to bring us in searches, and we're going to be able to control that a little better by using negative keywords. This is essentially a way to say, no, we don't want this term, or we don't want this group of terms. Leave those. We don't want them. We don't want to pay for them. This is how you prevent Google from giving you everything they have. So this is, if you're selling running shoes, this will be a way that you can prevent things like how to tie my running shoes. Because obviously that wouldn't be probably a very successful term for you, but it might be something that you actually do see in your search terms. So you have to watch for this. And this will allow us to control that and get rid of any terms that we don't want to see. So there's actually 3 different locations that we can put our negative keywords on. So there's in the campaign itself, we can actually go down to the ad group level and add a negative keyword there. We can go up to a negative keyword list, and that's my favorite. That's where I like putting my negative keywords if I have a choice. And the last one, actually, there's kind of a hidden one. You can actually get Google to add a negative keyword. So this is important if you're using something like Performance Max and you need to get rid of a certain term. I wouldn't use this all the time because it's not a very fun way to add negative keywords. You have to go and reach out to Google and go through their phone lines and try to get a hold of someone. And then they'll send you something that you have to sign and ensure that they're changing it on your behalf. It's not the easiest thing to do. I definitely don't recommend doing it all the time. And hopefully in the future, they will make this a lot easier for us with Performance Max. But Performance Max aside, there are the 3 locations that we can add the negative keywords. Now, there are also different match types that we can use. There's a broad match, there's a phrase match, and there's an exact match. So each of these match types will control your keywords in a different way. So let's start going into them and I can explain it as we go. All right, so when we add a negative keyword, so let's say we're adding a broad match negative keyword to our campaign. This negative keyword is going to block any traffic that has the words from our negative keyword. So if we have running shoes, running and shoes will be the 2 words that Google will use to block the traffic coming in. So if they have any terms that come in that have running and shoes in it, those will be blocked. Now, if someone brings in a term, someone types in a term running shoe, that term will still go through. Or let's say, for example, they only use one of those words and one word showed up, the other one didn't, that will still go through. So you have to understand that has to be the exact word, and it has to include both the words or all 3 words, however many you have in there. Those have to be somewhere in the search term. So it could be shoes running. It doesn't matter. It could be running with my shoes. Those terms would get blocked. So that's how broad works. You can flip it around. You can move the words apart. It doesn't matter. They're still going to block those words as long as those 2 words are written in the search term somewhere exactly as you wrote them. Now, phrase is pretty close to this, except for there's 2 exceptions here. You can't have any words in between with phrase. So running shoes couldn't be running with my shoes, which would be a weird search term anyways. But if someone wrote running with my shoes, that term wouldn't get blocked. So that would come through. Or if you had them backwards, so shoes running, that term would also not get blocked because a phrase has to be in the same order and it can't have words between it. Now, if you had blue running shoes, that phrase would get blocked because running shoes is together and it's in the right order. So the last one we're going to talk about here is exact match. So exact match is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. If you have the exact term in your negative keywords, that exact term will get blocked. So with our running shoes, it's going to block running shoes if we typed in running shoes. It's not going to block shoes running. It's not going to block running shoe. And it's not going to block blue running shoes. All these terms won't get blocked except for that exact term. So whatever you write, it's exactly what will be blocked. All right, so let's go into the different match types and talk about how they can help us. So talking about exact match can help us, especially with eliminating very broad terms. So we could have, so if we had running shoes and we're getting a lot of terms coming in that are, say we're getting shoes or we're getting even running shoes is probably a pretty broad term. So maybe we want to block that. Maybe that traffic isn't converting for us. So how can we deal with that? we can use an exact match. So we can get rid of that exact term by putting an exact match in. So running shoes won't come through, but anything else related to it, maybe terms like blue running shoes or Nike running shoes, all these other terms will show up, but running shoes won't show up. So it's a way to kind of go in and extract a very broad term, get rid of that and say, okay, we want to show up for other terms, but this is too broad for us right now. Maybe we want to show up for it later, but right now we don't want to show up for it because it's too broad. So let's go into phrase match now. So if we want to use phrase match to get rid of certain search terms, we could use it in this way. So let's say we have running shoes again, and we're bringing in women's blue running shoes. So we want to get rid of anything that has blue running shoes, because maybe we sell women's shoes, but not women's blue running shoes. And we sell other different types of shoes as well. So we could put a phrase match around blue running shoes, and that's going to ensure that nothing else that has blue running shoes in it is going to show up. We'll still get all the other terms. We're going to get running shoes. We're going to get any other terms. But if it has blue running shoes in the search, then that won't show up. So if they type in red running shoes, that's going to show up for us. So it's going to help us to eliminate a group of terms that we don't want to show up for, but leave other terms untouched. So let's go into how we can use broad match. So this is the one we have to be careful with, because broad is actually very powerful when it comes to negative keywords. And if you misuse it, you can actually block a ton of searches. So if we were to go ahead and write shoes as a broad match, because say we don't want to show up for shoes and we forget to put the brackets on it to make an exact match, now all of a sudden we're not going to show up for anything that has shoes in the search. So it could be blue shoes, it could be Nike shoes, anything with shoes in it's going to be blocked. Now, why would we want to go ahead and do this? Well, let's say we have a blue running shoes and we don't sell blue running shoes again. We could actually add the word blue. If we don't sell any products that has blue in it, we could put blue as a negative broad match keyword. So it'll essentially eliminate blue completely from your search terms. Now, this is pretty powerful, but again, you have to be careful and really think through it, because if you write the wrong term in there and maybe you have something else that has blue in it, you might prevent yourself from showing up for that term. So keep that in mind as you're adding negative keywords. Now, there are some more advanced techniques that we can use in shopping campaigns, and the reason we'd use it because we can't pick keywords. So in a search, you can pick the keyword, so you already get to narrow down your searches. So in a shopping campaign, you don't get to select those keywords. So you're getting everything that Google brings in. So there's a way to set it up, and I do talk about this in a previous podcast, but there is a way to set this up so that you can control the keywords on 3 different levels or 2 different levels depending on what you want to see. So let's use 2 different levels at this point in time just to keep it easy, to keep it simple. So you could have 2 different levels. One level's a high priority, one level's a low priority. And what you can do is you can add negative keywords to the high priority campaign, and that's going to force these keywords into the low priority campaign, because Google's going to automatically, if you have a priority set on these campaigns, they're going to immediately go to the high priority campaign. If that has a negative keyword, but the low one does not, it's going to force that keyword into the low. And the reason you want to do this is because now you can bid higher in the low campaign. So for example, if it's brands or product names, you can bid higher. If it's kind of low in that funnel, you can bid higher to ensure that you're in front of that customer and that you might be more likely to get that sale because of that. So because of the structure that we have set up, we can go ahead and use these different match types to help us sculpt what we want to see showing up in this alpha campaign or this low priority campaign. So we can go ahead and sculpt it with these negative keywords. So you can use the exact match to ensure that we're bringing in these exact terms that we want to bring in, or you can get a little more broad and use the phrase match to ensure that we're getting this phrase that goes through. Or if you want to get even broader than that, you can go to broad match. And a lot of times I will use broad match. Say I want to show up for anything that has the brand name in it. So I will use a broad match negative keyword to force something from my high priority campaign into my low priority campaign where I pay a little more to get that click. So as you can see, negative keywords can be pretty powerful. Just be careful you don't go overboard and add a ton of negative keywords trying to control every single thing that Google does. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot doing this. You want to give Google a little bit of room to breathe, especially in 2023 and beyond. It's going to be very important to give Google a little bit of range, let them do their thing, If you try to control everything, for example, the classic SCAGs setup, this is trying to control every little detail. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot, and it's going to make it harder on you to actually run your campaigns. I suggest loosen up the reins a little bit, especially now, and use these match types to ensure that you are still getting the search terms you want. Just be careful how tight you become when you're trying to do this. If you want to do this and you only brought in exact match search terms, say for this alpha beta setup, and you put a whole bunch of exact matches on your beta and forced them into your alpha, you're probably going to pay a little more for cost per click for one. Two, you're not giving Google any room to adjust these search terms. And I don't think it's going to work out for you. It's not going to be the most effective use of your money. You want to give Google a little more leeway. So if you're using this, I would try to use like phrase match, broad match, and try to sculpt the search terms you want in your alpha, but don't restrict them too much. I hope this makes sense. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, leave me a review if you have a chance. I'd love to see what you guys think of this podcast. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye.